What happened to the 12 men who walked with Jesus? After the Gospels end and the story of the early church begins in the book of Acts, the Bible becomes surprisingly quiet about the fates of the apostles. But ancient Christian traditions tell a compelling and harrowing story, a story of unwavering faith in the face of brutal deaths. Today, we're exploring the traditional accounts of how the disciples of Jesus died. Remember, these accounts come from early church historians and traditions written decades after the fact, but they have shaped Christian belief and martyrdom for 2,000 years. First, let's get one thing straight. According to tradition, almost all of the apostles died as martyrs. That is, they were killed for their faith. Their willingness to face horrific deaths is often cited as powerful evidence that they truly believed they had seen Jesus risen from the dead. Why die for a lie? We'll start with the only apostle whose death is explicitly recorded in the Bible. 1. James, son of Zebedee, killed by the sword. James, the brother of John, has the grim distinction of being the first apostle martyred. The book of Acts, chapter 12, tells us that King Herod Agrippa had James put to death with the sword. This was a straightforward execution, a political move to persecute the early church. James's death shows how dangerous it was to be a leader of this new movement. 2. Peter, crucified upside down. The story of Peter's death is one of the strongest and most poignant traditions. Early church fathers like Origen tell us that Peter was crucified in Rome during Emperor Nero's terrible persecution around 64 to 68 AD. But the tradition says that Peter, feeling unworthy to die in the exact same way as his Lord, Jesus, requested to be crucified upside down. This act of humility became a powerful symbol of his devotion. 3. Andrew, the X-shaped cross. Andrew, Peter's brother, was a missionary who traveled far and wide, reportedly preaching as far as modern-day Georgia and Greece. In the city of Patras, he was sentenced to crucifixion, but the tradition says he was nailed to an X-shaped cross, now known as the St. Andrew's Cross. He was bound, not nailed, and is said to have preached to the crowd for 2 days before dying. This was dedication. 4. John, the exception, died of old age. Now for the major exception, John, the disciple whom Jesus loved. While early tradition says he was boiled in oil and exiled to the island of Patmos, he miraculously survived. He eventually returned to Ephesus in modern Turkey, where he died of natural causes at an old age, around the year 100 AD. He was the only apostle to avoid martyrdom. Let's move to some of the apostles who traveled to the farthest reaches of the ancient world. 5. Thomas, the spear in India. Thomas is famous for his initial doubt, but his later faith took him incredibly far. Strong ancient traditions hold that Thomas traveled to India, establishing churches that still exist today. His life ended when he was speared to death by order of a local king near Chennai. 6. Bartholomew, flayed alive. Bartholomew's martyrdom is perhaps the most gruesome. Tradition says he was a missionary in Armenia, where he was captured, flayed alive, meaning his skin was removed, and then beheaded. In art, he is often depicted holding his own skin or the flaying knife. Now, before we continue, subscribe, like, and share. I don't know your reason, but I make interesting, informative videos. 7. Philip, crucified or beheaded. Philip is said to have preached in Phrygia, in modern Turkey. Accounts of his death vary, with some saying he was crucified upside down like Peter, and others stating he was crucified and then stoned. Another version claims he was simply beheaded. 8. Matthew, the missionary in Ethiopia. The former tax collector turned apostle is believed to have carried the gospel to Ethiopia or Persia. He was likely martyred there, with traditions pointing to death by beheading or stabbing. 9. Simon the Zealot and Jude Thaddeus, martyred together. These two are often linked as missionary partners in Persia. Their deaths were brutal. Simon the Zealot was reportedly sawn in half, a horrific method of execution. Other accounts say he was crucified. 10. Jude Thaddeus was reportedly clubbed or killed with an axe. 11. James, son of Alphaeus, James the Less, beaten to death. James was a leader in the Jerusalem church. The historian Josephus records the death of a James, the brother of Jesus, which some traditions link to this James. He was thrown from the pinnacle of the temple, stoned, and finally clubbed to death. 12. Matthias, the replacement. The apostle chosen to replace Judas Iscariot also met a martyr's end, though details are scarce. Some accounts say he was stoned and then beheaded in Jerusalem. Bonus, the apostle Paul. Beheaded. Though not one of the original 12, Paul was the most influential missionary. As a Roman citizen, he was granted a faster execution. Early tradition states he was beheaded with a sword on the Ostian Way outside Rome during Nero's persecution. So, what can you take from this grim catalog of deaths? The consistent thread is sacrifice. With the exception of John, every single one of these men faced a torturous end because they refused to deny what they claimed to have witnessed, the resurrected Jesus. Their stories fueled the growth of Christianity. As the early church father Tertullian famously said, "The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church." Whether you approach this as history or sacred tradition, the legacy of the apostles is a testament to the power of a faith that was worth dying for. What do you think? Does the martyr's sacrifice strengthen the case for Christianity? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more explorations of history and faith. Thanks for watching.